Welcome back to another episode of the Jacob Johnston Show. Hey, before we go ahead and get into today's video, I want to take a few moments for all of you who are watching this on YouTube. Go follow me on Rumble. Yes, the free speech alternative to YouTube. Go follow me on Rumble. The link to my channel will be in the description below. Okay, so where we left off on the last video that I did for YouTube, and by the way, also subscribe to the audio version of the podcast. I do much more audio than I do video, and that's more for a time reason. But where we left off is I was going to tell you that, hey, I'm rebranding the channel in order to be able to provide you more content. And yes, this show would still be a part of the channel, but I would be bringing you even more information and news. And that's what I was intending to do. And I may still do that, but I've been wondering, what is the point? I mean, as far as YouTube goes, what is the point? We're not actually allowed to talk or say anything. Censorship has gotten out of control, where now if you take a look at the terms of service, whether that's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, it basically reads that you're not allowed to disagree with the left, at least not on anything of substance. The only disagreements allowed are surface level stuff, the topics that they don't really care about. Things that will give the appearance as if there is free speech. I mean, we're not allowed to talk about what happened in the election, what actually happened in the election. That has all been censored. If we want to try and communicate, we have to speak in code. Pig Latin, or, make references in the way that Harry Potter universe does to Voldemort. That which shall not be mentioned. And censorship, let's be honest here, what censorship is. Censorship is an admission by the censors that they have no argument and they cannot counter the facts and the evidence laid out by the other side. So their only option is to just block speech, block debate, block information from getting out to the public, because the number one ally of tyrants is an uninformed populace. And the best way to keep the populace uninformed is through censorship. And that is what's going on here. We know it. And the fact that they're engaging in all this censorship only confirms what we already know. It's just an admission of guilt. So we can go off and we could talk about that much more. We could go off and we could talk about the Democrats' control of the House of Representatives, control that is based off of stripping American citizens of representation and giving it to illegal immigrants, through the census. But since illegal immigrants can't actually vote, at least not legally, the effective result is citizens in Democrat states and blue states have more representation per citizen than those in red states. And that's how they have been able to maintain control of the House. Now, I'm sure bringing that up will cause this video to be taken down by YouTube, because God forbid we get any actual information and facts out there. Now, I can go on and rail about this forever. And chances of YouTube actually allowing that to get out is next to none, which is why I say go ahead and follow me on Rumble. But right now, I want to go ahead and talk to you about my problems with conservative influencers. Those who have made it to the top, those who are being allowed to succeed, because I have become very suspicious of a lot of them. I have become, to the point where I think that they're a lot like the GOP establishment, where they're just there to pretend like they're advancing conservatism when they're actually not. We have this huge problem where we've allowed people to become the influential voices that don't actually represent us. And I have an idea as far as how they became influential voices, how they managed to get to the top. Now, you could say that for some of them it's because they started before the censorship was enacted. And they gained a following, and they've been able to maintain that following throughout the censorship. But if they were really advancing conservatism, they would already be banned from all these left-wing dominated platforms for daring to actually get out. See, it's almost as if they're being allowed to succeed by the left on these platforms in order to give us false ideas of leadership. You know, they're almost like the concept of the one in the Matrix. You know, before Neo, the one was never there to actually lead you to liberation. It was just another form of control. The appearance that they're allowing debate, and we have these people who are representing our voices, right? And therefore they're being lifted up. But if you notice, they follow all the censorship rules, right? Which means they're not actually fighting back. And when it all comes down to it, do they ever ask us to take any action? You know, and no, I'm not talking about violent action, but do they actually do anything other than say, oh yeah, you know, and vote, I guess? No, in fact, they do the exact opposite. They may go out there and say, hey, you know what? This is outrageous. You know, I'm on your side. You know, I'm your voice. I'm talking about this is wrong and here's why I think it's wrong. And then they end it with, but, you know, in the end, you can't do anything. Just roll over and take it. Just bend over and let the left give it to you. And that's how they operate. That's how they act. So while some of them, you know, may have gotten started before the censorship, some of them got started after the censorship, their continuing ability to be in the top position seems to be more as an unholy alliance with these tech companies. They're being allowed to succeed because the left knows that they're always going to tell everybody to stand down in the end, and they're just going to go along with the speech censorship and avoid all the actual real topics of the day. Now, as far as it goes with the so-called conservative influencers, well, let's actually go through and take a look at their actions. You know, because we have alternatives to Facebook. We have alternatives to Twitter. We have alternatives to YouTube. Why aren't these conservative influencers really on there? I mean, there are some, don't get me wrong, you can find a few here and there. You know, of course, they were all wanting to sign up for Parler because, you know, Parler was being backed by one of the conservative influencers, Dan Bongino, so of course they had to support that. Now, this isn't a rant against Dan Bongino. I mean, I have some issues, you know, with him. I've never met him, you know, but for the most part, I think he's decent. So, you know, this isn't a rant on Dan Bongino. Although, never mind. Anyways, but what happens here? You know, you'll see the conservative influencers go on there and they'll say, hey, you know what? We got this free speech alternative, you know, Rumble, for instance. And I've created a channel. Go ahead and go to that channel and plus follow. I'm not actually posting anything to Rumble is how it goes. But that way, if I get banned from YouTube at some point, then I'll start posting the videos on Rumble. And if you're already subscribed, you'll be able to easily find me and get me there, right? Well, what's the point of that? They're basically saying, yeah, we got these free speech alternatives. I'm not going to personally use it, but I'm going to reserve my name just in case I get banned. It's not me trying to go ahead and push people towards those free alternatives. It's just a backup plan. And we see the same thing when it comes to other free speech alternatives. MeWe, Minds, Gab. You know, Parler was taken down, but hopefully Parler will be back. What do? They say, hey, you know, go ahead, sign up, follow me, and then if I get banned on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, then I'll go over and actually start posting things there. Or maybe they'll post something once in a while, right, on there, but not nearly the amount of content that they're posting on Facebook and Twitter or YouTube. And their explanation for this is what? Well, I know some people are criticizing me being on YouTube, or wondering about what my stance is about staying on YouTube. And my idea here is the fact that the left doesn't want me here is all the more reason I should stay. Now, that is a dumb argument. Now, when it comes to YouTube, I'm actually posting up on Rumble, and then Rumble just automatically feeds to YouTube. For the most part, I don't log on to YouTube except for maybe to get something for the show, a video clip, of what stupid thing the left is trying to push out their claim, or how insane or phony the media is. It's unnecessary evil at this point. But when it comes to my kids, or for entertainment or whatever, YouTube is pretty much banned in my household. Why? Because I refuse to fund the left's ability to attack our democracy, to attack our Constitution and strip us of our rights. And that's what these conservative influencers are not understanding here. When you make it so that only these left-wing platforms with full-on censorship control is the only way your audience can follow you, you're actually working against the conservative movement, against the Trump movement, against the MAGA movement. You're actually helping the left. Do you not understand that? I mean, yeah, good. You reserved your handle on these free speech platforms, and you may post something once in a blue moon. But if anyone wants to follow you, they got to go to what? Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. What does that mean? It means they got to maintain their accounts on those platforms. Which means every time they want to see what you are doing, those platforms, and I use that term platform loosely, they're actually publishers. They're lying about being platforms. But what does that mean? It means they then get our data. And we have to have their apps on our phones and maintain them on our phones in order to be able to access what you are saying. So they're able to track us. They're able to get our data and then sell it to make money. And then, of course, while we're on there, we get, of course, all the advertisements being fed to us for which they make money. When you make YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter the only way that people can actually follow you, then what you are doing is you're forcing us to fund the left, to make money off of us that they then use to attack us. So now you're going off and going, well, you're still using those. I'm only using Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as a way to promote going over and following me on Rumble, on MeWe, on Gab, and on Minds now. I'm trying to use whatever reach I'm able to get on the left-wing sites to direct people to follow me on actual free speech platforms. So that is the difference. If the conservative influencer is starting off every bit of video content on YouTube by telling you follow me on Rumble, and they're actually posting on Rumble everything that they would post on YouTube, then great. But if they're posting on YouTube and they're saying, and even if they mention follow on Rumble, but they're not posting on Rumble everything that they're posting on YouTube, well, then they're basically selling us out. They're basically telling you we need to fund the left. Now, some of it is them saying, well, these platforms don't have the reach of, the left-wing platforms. Really? Well, there may be some truth to that, but it's the chicken and the egg. You're not posting anything on those other platforms. You're not posting nearly the amount of content on free speech platforms. So the lack of reach or engagement and signups, well, you need content for people to want to follow. Right? Now, of course, Facebook and YouTube and all that still all have the left-wingers on there as well. And so I kind of get that point there. But the point is, you're not giving your audience the option to follow and share the content from these free speech platforms because you're not posting anything on there or not posting anywhere near as much. And so your lack of actual posting on these is keeping the growth down. It's the chicken and the egg. Do you want the audience before there's something for the audience to have? Or do you think you need to put something there, give people the alternative to follow you there, and then watch what the engagement is? Watch what the growth is. You starting to understand this now? Is the fact that they will go off and strictly stay on the left-wing platforms and try and justify it. Is not giving you the opportunity to go anywhere else to follow them. And as a result, they're helping to fund the left. And they want to say there are great minds, there are leadership, there are influencers. Really? Because it seems like they're not much different than the GOP establishment that we very much dislike, who want to talk a good game, but whose actions are severely lacking. Wow. Yeah. So here's the thing. I know I don't have nearly the audience size as these big influencers who have been allowed to rise. But here's what we need to do. We need to completely clean house. We need to completely clean house of all the RINOs, whether that's an elected office or whether that's in the influencer and content creation space. We need to get rid of the RINOs and build up real leadership. Now, whether or not you think that's me, that's up to you. I don't know. I'm someone with a microphone and a camera who puts out their thoughts and opinions. It's up to you to decide whether or not you agree with it. All right, so we need to clean house. All right, so any influencer on the right that's not posting everything on the free speech platforms that they are on the left's, heavily censored platforms, then do not take them as actual leadership. You need to start recognizing them for who they are. I know this is a bit of a rant. And I know I somewhat repeat myself a little bit, but I'm hoping it's to drill it home for you. The old tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So that it really drills home for you. All right. So I think I'll leave the rant right there. Because I've explained how it is they're helping to fund the left by driving audience to all the places in which the left can make money off of you rather than the free speech platforms. And the stupid excuse they give for it. Because they don't want us here. That's all the more reason we should be here. Yeah, but that doesn't explain why you're not giving us alternatives so those of us who don't want to fund our own demise can have a different way to follow you. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and follow on the free speech platforms. On Minds at JohnstonShow, Gab at JohnstonShow, MeWe, for some reason it's the Jacob Johnston Show 2. I wasn't able to figure out how to customize the URL there. All right, so go ahead, follow me there, and if Parler comes back, it's at Johnston Show. Pretty easy. I prefer that you don't follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I want you to go over to the free speech platforms to follow me because I do not want to help the left fund our own demise. All right, thank you so much, and I will be back again soon.